Jack, thanks so much for being here.
Josh, thanks for having me. Really looking forward to this. Great event so far.
So perhaps not everybody has heard of Ridgeline yet, but I imagine most know your founder, Dave Duffield. He was a co-founder of both PeopleSoft and Workday, making him what I imagine is one of very few founders with two companies in the S&P 500, so an incredibly impressive pedigree. And I want to start by asking, what lessons, approaches to the market did he and you and your team bring from those successes to Ridgeline and the investment management industry?
Well, that is the best place to start, Josh. Our founder and chairman, Dave Duffield, is quite a legend. I like to think that if there were a Mount Rushmore of enterprise software technology entrepreneurs, perhaps Dave Duffield would be on it. He is one of a handful of founders and CEOs to have two companies enter the S&P 500 in the same lifetime. And so he's a really special person to have.
Let's make it three. Yeah.
Let's make it three, maybe the year of the IPO. He's a really special person to have started Ridgeline with. And you could essentially think of Ridgeline as combining the Dave Duffield playbook, his talent network, and his incredibly long-term patient capital with the needs of asset and wealth managers on the buy side. And we've been working with our customers to design from a clean sheet of paper the system that they've always wanted, and we've been afforded the opportunity to build for them. That system is a front to middle to back office system with a single unified data model and now an agentic workforce that is helping them actually run their businesses. And why our customers are so excited about this, Josh, is essentially we're allowing them to change their operating model to an operating model now that is allowing them to grow without the need for additional headcount, manual work, or operational costs.
Let's talk about how that process has gone. So you're clearly making some impressive strides, 650 billion assets committed to the platform, close to 20 billion a month in trading volume. But the financial services industry is complex, it's fragmented. This room is a microcosm of that, I think. So what does the conversation sound like when you're going in there and talking about adopting AI or really just changing the way you do things?
Yeah.
This is a big change.
Well, as Dave Duffield likes to say, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. So there really is no shortcut here. The industry is exciting momentum we're having, as you mentioned, 650 billion. I think we'll have over $1 trillion worth of assets cumulatively committed to Ridgeline by the end of the year. And what I think we hear from CEOs, well, this is first of all a very fragmented market, as evidenced by the cross-cut of attendees at this event. As one advisor said to me in the early days at Ridgeline, it's the land of 1,000 niches. And you really have to know who your customer is if you're going to build software and technology for financial services. So we took that really seriously and defined a very clear and correct part of the market to start with in asset and wealth management. And when we went to go meet with the CEOs of our customers, we heard a very common story. They're all trying to grow their businesses, as evidenced by the agenda at this event, right? They're trying to navigate the shifting investor preferences from active to passive and the rise of indexation. They're navigating the opportunity in private markets with what Mr. Gray talked about, the 30-20 portfolio. They want exposure to new asset classes and types. We talk a lot about crypto, but we may very well be talking about compute as a security in the next 10 years. They're ever more global, and they're launching new vehicles like ETFs. So if you're a manager or an advisor today, your business is only more complicated as you pursue growth. And I think what many managers have done is to lean on their teams and their talent to help facilitate that growth. And that has been a primary source of leverage. But going forward, they're going to be able to lean on a combination of that talent and technology to help them grow their businesses. And I think that's going to be a game changer for the industry.
And when you get the opportunity to have this conversation, is there sort of an immediate aha moment, or are there sort of institutional sort of hurdles to overcome? What do you hear?
Well, CEOs are cautiously optimistic about AI. They are skeptical of all the AI washing going on in the industry. And I would say financial services in particular wants to adopt this technology responsibly. And that has led us down a path to giving them the ability to speak confidently to their investors and to their regulators about how they're using AI. Trust and transparency are non-negotiables for this industry. And so that's led us on a path to work with our partners at OpenAI, with legal minds across the industry and security minds, to design the responsible AI framework. And this is a set of policies, of risk monitoring, of governance, of acceptable use programs. And our customers end up adopting a lot of these components into their own responsible AI framework. And that's what's allowed us to launch our first 2 products. And I think it's important to talk about how we're applying this technology. The first product is the Ridgeline Assistant, which is a natural language-based way to use our system of record through voice and through text, not too dissimilar from how we're all using ChatGPT in our personal lives. I think this will be the future of how you interact with software, through this as the primary user interface. And the second are our AI agents. You've heard a lot about agents. I think the simplest way to understand them is that they are digital coworkers. They have skills like their human labor equivalents, and they're going to enter your workforce. And we are building agents now in areas like reconciliation and trade compliance and client services and beyond. And our customers are pretty excited about turning those on.
So you're talking about some of the big trends in AI. So I want to pull the lens back a bit. Now, Dave may be on the Mount Rushmore of software founders, but you have an impressive pedigree in the AI world yourself. You worked at IBM on Watson. It was like the AI OG in many ways.
The OG.
But it seems now, in retrospect, Watson was maybe ahead of its time, given the significant time gap between that highly publicized moment when it won Jeopardy and the sort of Gen AI frenzy we're seeing now. What happened in that intervening period, and what does that say about the adoption of this technology? And then we'll talk about what it might mean for what comes next.
Well, I think there's a really important lesson in the Watson story for us all. So I got to IBM right after IBM had played Jeopardy, which was a grand challenge. Some of you remember maybe when they did that with Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov, and they played chess with a supercomputer. The idea to bring this technology to the game show Jeopardy was a way to showcase AI on the global stage. And when I got there, they said, well, we've got to figure out how to commercialize this technology. It was a research asset that we used to play a game show at the time. And so we went all over the world meeting with global corporations, and we had the primitives of AI. We had the beginnings of machine learning. We had natural language classification. We had the math. AI is really, at the end of the day, math. But what we did not have was the data in a high enough quality form or ready to be used by these applications, which is why I feel like the last 10 years, most CEOs have hired a chief data officer. 2 of the most valuable companies in the world are now Snowflakes and Databricks. And many organizations have now gotten their data house in order, which is a very good foundation for the moment that we are in right now with generative AI. And if I were to sort of project out what might look a lot like that experience today, I would say it is what we're all hearing about in 2026, which is context. Now, data is an important and vital component to context. You could think of context as sort of the model's memory at runtime. And what all of the systems prior to Ridgeline do a pretty good job at is capture the transactional data. The trading system captures, well, we traded with these brokers, we got these prices. But what they don't capture is why the traders made those decisions. They don't capture intent. And I think the next wave of systems of record like Ridgeline will capture intent, which is why we are able to capture those data points in our system, but also why traders are making those decisions. That's going to lead to the really rich context AI needs to generate good output.
All right, well let's close with a bit of a look into the future, and I'll harken back to the kinds of companies that Dave helped found. These software companies gave enterprises the tools to do their job.
Yes.
Now the tools are going to be able to do the job itself,
yes,
or meaningful parts of it. So what is your perspective on what that will mean for the future of work, how leaders have to think differently, and maybe even society if we have time to get to it?
Okay, well, real quick, I think there's a lot of complicated terms being used. The best definition of cloud, we deliver you the software over the internet. It's that easy. I think the best definition of AI, we used to give you the tools to do the job. We're still going to do that as a software company, but now the tools can do a meaningful portion of or the entire job, which is what's going to cause software to evolve from systems of record that allow you to capture, view, and engage with the business processes and data that you have every day to systems that will ultimately allow you to automate and scale those same business processes. And I think there's a lot at stake I mean, globally, just our industry alone, $150 trillion worth of assets that are managed and owned. And what I've learned from Dave is that when one of these technological revolutions occurs, the world reorders itself. We see that in your content today. And in the process of that reordering, it's our job to make sure that our customers come out on top.
Excellent. Well, we will be watching closely what happens at Ridgeline. And thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Josh.